Okay, hi again. We will continue this week's third lesson. Okay, now we were talking about Safranbolu. Now I want to talk to you about some sites and activities that can be done and can be seen in Safranbolu. For example, Ottoman houses. Okay, just walking through Çarşı is a feast for the eyes. Virtually every house in this district is an original, and what little modern development there is has been held in check. Many of the finest historic houses have been restored, and as time goes on, more and more are being saved from deterioration and turned into hotels, shops, or museums. One of the most important houses are Kaymakamlar Müzeevi, Kaymakamlar Museum House. It's a beautiful one. You should visit it. This typical Safranbolu home has all the classic features of Ottoman houses. It was owned by a lieutenant colonel and still feels like an address of note as you climb the stairs towards the wooden ceiling decoration. Some mannequins recreate scenes such as bathing in a cupboard and a wedding feast. And there is also Cinci Hanım. You should visit that too. Çarşı's most famous and imposing structure is Cinci Hanım. Okay, it's a 17th century caravanserai. It's now a hotel. And non-guests of the hotel are also welcome to come and explore. You can climb up to the rooftop for red-tiled roof panoramas over the town. There is a beautiful view from this rooftop. And on Saturdays, a market takes place in the square behind it. İzmit Paşa Camii, İzmit Paşa Mosque is one of the largest mosques constructed during the Ottoman Empire. It was built by the Grand Vizier in 1796 and restored in 1903. Its design was influenced by European architecture. Okay, and there is also Kent Tarihi Müzesi, City History Museum that you can visit. Inside the mustard yellow Eski Hükümet Konağı, Old Government Building, on a hill overlooking the town, the exhibits at this museum are a decent introduction to local life. And just behind is the clock tower that was built in 1797 by Grand Vizier İzzet Mehmet Paşa. And there is Köprülü Mehmet Paşa Mosque. It's a beefy helmet-roofed building, and it's beside the Yemeniciler Arastası, which is a row of shops beside the mosque, and it dates to 1661. The metal sundial in the courtyard of the mosque was added in the mid-19th century. Okay, there are also festivals and events that are held in Safranbolu, such as Geleneksel Lezzetler Şenliği. It's a popular May food festival run by the Association of Anatolian Cuisine. And there is also Safranbolu Architectural Treasures and Folklore Week in September. There are exhibitions and performances across town during this week. Okay. Okay, we will continue to talk about Anatolia, the Middle Anatolia. Okay, out in the center of the Anatolian plains, there are two UNESCO World Heritage Sites that evoke a vital historical moment of the height of Hittite civilization. Hattusha was the Hittite capital, and Yazılıkaya was a religious sanctuary with fine rock carvings. Okay, the best place for visiting the sites around here is Boğazkale, a farming village 200 kilometers east of Ankara. Boğazkale has simple traveler services. If you want or need something a little fancier, you'll need to stay in Çorum, or you can get going early enough in the morning from Ankara. Now let's talk about Boğazkale. The village of Boğazkale has ducks, cows, and wheelbarrow racing children wandering its cobble streets. Farmyards with Hittite and Byzantine gates, and a constant sense that once a great city is just over the brow. Most visitors come solely to visit Hattuşa and Yazılıkaya, which can be accessed on foot if it's not too hot, but there is more to explore. Surrounded by valleys with Hittite caves, eagles' nests, butterflies, and a Neolithic fort, the area around Hattuşa is ripe for hiking. You can head 4 kilometers east of Yazılıkaya, and you can climb Yazılıkaya mountain to watch the sunset on the sides, or you can head to the swimming hole on the Budaközü River to cool off after a long day in the ruins. Okay. Now I want to talk about Hattuşa. Okay. This is an isolated site. And it was once the capital of the Hittite kingdom, which stretched from Syria to Europe. At its zenith, this was a busy and impressive city of 15,000 inhabitants, with defensive walls over 6 kilometers in length, some of the thickest in the ancient world, and studded with watchtowers and secret tunnels. As you climb out of the village to the site, an evocative reconstruction of a section of city wall comes into view. Imagine the sense of purpose that drove the Hittites to haul stone to this remote spot, far from the oceans and trade routes, and wield an engineering masterpiece that launched a mighty empire. The full circuit around the site is a long walk, taking at least 3 hours. And you can see the Büyük Mabet Great Temple. It's a vast complex dating from the 14th century BC and destroyed around 1200 BC. And it is the closest archaeological site to the entrance gate and the best preserved of Hattuşa's Hittite temple ruins. But even so, you'll still need plenty of imagination. As you walk down the wide processional street, the administrative quarters of the temple are to your left. The well-worn cube of green nephrite rock here is thought to have played a significant role in the Hittite religion. The main temple to your right was surrounded by storerooms thought to be 3 stories high, and in the early 20th century, huge clay storage jars and thousands of tablets were found in these rooms. You can look for the threshold stones at the base of some of the doorways to see the hole for the hinge post and arc borne by the door's movement. The temple is believed to have been a ritual altar for the deities. Deity mean gods. Teshup and Hepatu, the large stone base of one of their statue remains. And Sarıkale, about 250 meters south of the Büyük Mabet Great Temple, the road forks. Take the right fork and follow the winding road up the hillside. On your left, in the midst of the old city, you can see several ruined structures. The rock-top ruins of the Sarıkale, Yellow Fortress in English, may be a Phrygian fort on Hittite foundations. On another rock outcrop are the remains of the Yenice Castle, which may have been a royal residence or small temple. You can climb to the summit from the east side. And there is also Aslanlı Kapı, the famous Aslanlı Kapı, Lion's Gate. At Aslanlı Kapı, at Lion's Gate, 2 stone lions protect the city from evil spirits. This is one of the least 6 gates in Hattusha's 4,000-year-old defensive walls. Though it may never have been completed, it's not known. You can see the best preserved parts of Hattusha's fortifications from here, stretching southeast to Yerkapı, and from there to Kralkapı. The walls illustrate the Hittites' engineering ingenuity, which enabled them to either build in sympathy with the terrain or transform the landscape altogether, depending on what was required. Natural outcrops were appropriated as part of the walls, and massive ramparts were built to create artificial fortresses. Yerkapı Earth Gate is Hattusha's most impressive gate, with an artificial mound pierced by a 70-meter-long tunnel. The Hittites built the tunnel using a corbelled arch, as the true arch was not invented until later. And primitive or not, this arch of Yerkapı has done its job for millennia, and you can still pass down the stony tunnel as Hittite soldiers did, emerging from the postern. Afterwards, re-enter the city via one of the monumental stairways up the white stone glacis and pass through the Sphinx Gate, once defended by 4 great sphinxes. One is still in situ, 2 are in the Boğazkale Museum, and the other has been lost. There are wonderful views over the upper city temple district from here. Kralkapı, King's Gate, is named after the regal-looking figure in the relief carving. The kingly character, a Hittite warrior god protecting the city, is a copy, not the real door. The original was removed to Ankara for safekeeping. Nishantaş is a rock with a faintly visible Hittite inscription cut into it, and it narrates the deeds of Suppiluliuma, the final Hittite king. Immediately opposite it, a path leads up to the excavated Güneykale southern fortress with a fine hieroglyph chamber with human figure reliefs. And finally, great fortress Büyükkale, and it has been excavated, most of it has been excavated, but many of the older layers of development have been recovered to protect them. So what you can see today can be hard to decipher. This fortress held the royal palace and the Hittite state archives. Now I want to talk about yazılı kaya. It means inscribed rock, and that's exactly what you'll find in these outdoor rock galleries, just under 3 kilometers from Hattusha. There are 2 galleries. The larger one to the left was the Hittite Empire's holiest religious sanctuary, and the narrower one to the right has the best preserved carvings. Together, they form the largest known Hittite rock sanctuary, sufficiently preserved to make you wish you could have seen the carvings when they were new. In the larger gallery, Chamber A, there are the faded reliefs of numerous goddesses and pointy-headed gods marching in procession. Heads and feet are shown in profile, but the torso is shown front on, a common feature of Hittite relief art. The lines of men and women lead to some large reliefs depicting a godly meeting. Teshup stands on 2 deified mountains, depicted as men, alongside his wife Hepatu, who is standing on the back of a panther. And behind her, their son and 2 daughters are respectively carried by a smaller panther and a double-headed eagle. The largest relief on the opposite wall depicts the complex's bearded founder, King Tudladiya IV, standing on 2 mountains. The rock ledges were probably used for offerings or sacrifices, and the basins for libations. And on the way into chamber B, you should suppose they asked permission of the winged, lion-headed guard depicted by the entrance before entering. The narrow galley is thought to be a memorial chapel for Tudladiye IV, dedicated by his son Suppiluluma II. The large limestone block could have been the base of a statue of the king, and buried until a century ago and better protected from the elements. The carvings include a procession of 12 scimitar-wielding underworld gods. Okay, that's all for our third lesson, and I will continue to talk about this place in our fourth video, okay? Bye-bye, see you, take care.